Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz, guys. Welcome to episode 164 of the Untapped Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. We are thrilled to have you here with us. We actually have 5 main formats of our show. So first, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the mental side of our brand. In these ones, we cover our anecdotal experiences with things like mindset and mentality. We then pass on tips and advice to you guys to then apply to your own lives. Next, we have physical vitality episodes. Now, in these ones, we really get to showcase our expertise because you have 2 certified personal trainers. So in these ones, we cover everything to do with our fully custom Untapped training app. If you guys have any questions or curiosities about what we offer, please reach out. As we have discussed many times, we are very reachable dudes. So we also cover everything to do with the gym, workouts, nutrition, diet, supplements, 75 hard, and then sometimes we will even take, trending articles or topics within the fitness industry and give our thoughts and opinions on those. Now, guys, keep in mind these physical vitality episodes are full of free game, so make sure you pay attention.
Awesome work, dude. All right, guys, let's get into our third format. That is our breaking news format. It is a current event-based format. We touch on current events, current articles going on in today's world. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the content you see around current events is very doom and gloom and what's wrong with the world. We want to bring solutions to those episodes as well. Now, our fourth format is our Knights Table format. That is a masculinity-based format. We touch on things like toxic masculinity, if it's real, what it is, fatherhood, the impact it's had on our lives, and male-based topics in general, and how important men are to the future of the world and also this country that we're in, the United States, for sure. Now, keep in mind, I'm 26, Wurtz is 26, our producer Mitch is 24. Because of that, we are not coming to you as some all put together perfect man. The only perfect man to ever walk this earth is Jesus Christ. Now, on to our fifth format. That is our guest format. This is when we sit down with entrepreneurs, fitness professionals, athletes, doctors, somebody with a great story, or anybody who really brings you value. That's what we have for you today. We're going to learn a lot from these episodes, including today's, and also you are going to gain a lot of information from these episodes as well. Now, our second to last thing to introduce is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
What's going on?
And the pup.
Hey, I'm multitasking over here.
Unfortunately, the camera is just missing him, but for those of you that cannot see, Mitch has 2 dogs right underneath him here, keeping them occupied.
Not my toes, like him. He likes to show off his dogs on his Instagram. So.
Actually, I think his dogs are his fingers now.
That's
So
true.
this guy's married now. We've got your wonderful wife here with us watching, and Mitch, you officially have a sister.
I do.
How's that feel?
I get to bully her.
That's right.
Yep.
As
That is
a
key.
brother
That is
should.
key.
Yes.
Yep.
Pretty normal.
As brothers, that is our job.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's innate. Yes.
Almost instinctual, one would say.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
I got
course.
2 of them, and that's basically all I do. And when you're the middle child, like it's just what you got to do.
That's true. You kind of have to back yourself up a
That's
little
right.
bit. Yeah,
That's
of course.
right. But how's it feel, man? Finally married.
Things feel good, dude. I'm
Yeah.
pumped. I mean, beautiful ceremony Hal and I got to enjoy. And again, this guy also, by the way, did great with the filming aspect of it. So I want to pump his tires real quick with that too. Took care of a lot of that and just feeling really blessed. Like Holly and I were talking about it after. We feel really blessed about it. So yeah, it's awesome.
No, it is, man. As I told you, super proud of you. Love you, bro. Very, very cool.
Thank you,
Very,
bro.
very
Love
cool
you
day.
too.
Well, guys, as we hinted at last week on episode 163, physical vitality, actually a really good one too, by the way, talking about judging coaches. Should we not, based on their physical looks? We also talked on a few other things, but we hinted at episode 164 being a big deal, a very exciting episode, and we're very, very excited to finally bring you this one with Mrs. Lexi Johnson. How we doing?
I'm good. I hope I live up to the hype. I'm excited.
I'm pretty positive you will. I'm pretty positive on that.
We're pretty confident on that one. Yeah, for sure.
We talk all the time about S2 and First Form, and like right now you're kind of the girl, with First Form. You're everywhere.
That is so wild. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited to go into it.
Yeah. So to start out, just kind of introduce yourself. Like, who are you? What's your backstory? What are you doing now? Those types of things.
Yeah. So I'm Lexi Johnson. I own LexiJWellness, and I'm a First Form athlete. Long story short, and I'll probably dive a little deeper into it, but I was actually a dental hygienist, and I wasn't fulfilled at all by scraping teeth, but it, paid off student debt. And I just had always enjoyed fitness. Like I worked out my whole life. So I did that on the side. Just that was something that brought me fulfillment. out of my 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic hit, and the gym that I worked out at was a really local one, and it actually shut down. It never opened back up. So
Oh, wow.
like everyone else, we were working out from home. We had like Facebook Marketplace dumbbells that we just made do. And in our unfinished basement, I started working out from there. I had maybe like 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Instagram. So super modest. And I was terrified of posting, like I never posted fitness content before.
Mhm.
But I started doing this, and I kind of saw a need where everyone's working out from home. And I have people in my life that I care about a lot that would never walk into a gym just for intimidation factor. Like, you don't want to look silly. You don't want to, not know what to do when seemingly everyone there knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
The like parents in my life, you oftentimes can't allocate that time for, childcare while you go to the gym, and then you don't know what to do while you're there. So I felt like it was kind of an opportunity for people to get their foot in the door with fitness, where, it's okay to look silly in your basement. It's okay to
Mhm.
not know what you're doing in your garage. And you can just start taking care of yourself. And it's also, at that time, the only people that you were socializing with were the people within your walls. And it was just kind of an isolating thing where it's hard enough to make friends as adults. So I was terrified. I would post an Instagram story, and then I would delete it like 20 minutes later. And I'd be like, God forbid anybody see this, when that's the whole purpose of posting something, for someone
Sure.
else to see. I made a Facebook group, and I pressed play on a video, and I did a workout. And I was like, if you want to do this with me, it's like you're hanging out with a friend. And I talk the whole time. It's 28 minutes. And I remember being so scared to put that out there, just because in my head, it was like, there's a group chat somewhere floating around where you're getting like called cringy and all of those things that
Right.
for whatever reason just like weighed so heavily on me. So I did that in this Facebook group. It was just, women that wanted to make a friend, that wanted to take care of themselves, that wanted to put their oxygen mask on first when they have so many other obligations pulling at them.
Mhm.
So I record 6 28-minute workouts a week, and I've done that for 5 years now. So I did that as I was a hygienist, because I was still working through the pandemic, for about a year. And then I quit my hygiene job, went full-time LJW, and haven't looked back.
Yeah. So how many people are a part of LJW now?
We have a member in every state. In 6
Wow.
countries, there's about 3,500
Holy cow.
throughout the United States.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's super special.
And then how big is your team?
I have 5 employees.
5 employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
And then
awesome.
Brett helps as well, your husband.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep,
Okay.
Brett is our CFO.
CFO. There
Yeah.
you go.
What a guy.
Yeah,
Let's go.
he
Let's
handles
go.
all the payroll, all of the. He's kind of HR probably too.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. Our goal one day he's going to be full-time LJW. That's a long-term goal, because he does so much of the background work that nobody ever sees. The
Sure.
like website transitions and weekly calls with all of the people that navigated a really hectic website migration that went over my head. Yeah, Brett is the unsung hero of LexiJWellness for sure.
That's awesome.
That's got to be probably the biggest positive, or maybe the one positive that came out of COVID, was the fact that online coaching blew up too.
Absolutely.
That time. And it sounds like it was just you going and helping people instead of, there's a lot of coaches that I think try to scam people during that time, of course. And that's why I think 3,500 women now flock to you, because of the fact that it's not that. It's real, actual connection through social media, which is what it was originally designed for anyways.
Absolutely.
And that's what it sure sounds like. So
Yeah. So at that time, what really like gave me the belief that I could make a difference, because I'm from a really small town, like population 400. We talked about this earlier,
Oh
but I
my
graduated
goodness.
with 20 kids. So my high school's in the middle of a cornfield, and if you are from a small rural area, the idea of like making a difference or making an impact at scale really doesn't feel possible. To no fault of anyone there, it's just kind of like that seems like someone from a big city
Mhm.
is cut out for that. But my dad had been overweight my whole life. My dad's a firefighter. My mom is an elementary principal. She was a teacher, so I'm like the stereotypical American household, like very standard jobs.
Mhm.
But my dad had been overweight my whole life. He had his first heart attack when I was in, I think, junior high, and he was like 37.
Oh man.
And then he had his second heart attack when I was probably a freshman. He had his third heart attack when I was maybe a junior. And he had his fourth heart attack when I was in college. And
Oh my God.
not many people survive one heart attack, you know, fewer survive 2, 3, and 4. And it scared me thinking that, you know, there's no way that you're going to survive 5. And I looked up to that man. I still look up to that man. Spoiler, he's still here. I look up to him so much. And I remember seeing him in a hospital bed for the first time and just feeling like Superman was not invincible. Like he's, you know, hooked up to machines. He's wearing this like gown. And I just felt so scared that like the toughest guy I knew was breakable. But I didn't have the confidence or the tools to communicate that and like give him actionable items and say like, you know, I need you to take care of yourself and this is what we're going to do about it. I was scared. And anytime I brought it up, I got emotional and, you know, you don't take a 14-year-old crying girl very seriously. But when I was in college, it just weighed on me and I was scared that something would happen while I was away. So I wrote him a letter and I left it on his nightstand and I went back to school. And in the letter, I basically just said like, this feels like suicide by lifestyle. The way that you're, you know, behaving, the way that you're eating, the way that you're taking care of yourself or not taking care of yourself, it's leading to the outcome we all know. I was like, I want you to walk me down the aisle. I want you to meet my kids one day. I think it's selfish that you've already met 5 grandkids, but you don't want to hang around for mine. And that was a gut punch for him for sure. So he called me on my way home or way back to school and we talked about it. It was a really emotional call. And he said what I think a lot of people that are, you know, in a spot where they're uncomfortable and they're miserable, the way they feel, but they don't always articulate it is he was like, I'm scared to fail. I'm scared to be seen trying and then not do it. And then all of you guys know that I tried and I didn't make it. But we decided that, you know, that there's the other option of not trying is going to lead to the outcome that we all know. So he gave me that letter back when he lost 100 pounds. And he's down about 120.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool. But I remember, and I was still full-time dental hygiene, like LexiJWellness had not crossed my mind, but I remember being the recipient of a parent that took care of themselves. And I was an adult at this time. Like by the time he had lost that weight, I was married. Like he walked me down the aisle, but he was overweight then. We hadn't had this was like in that transition. You don't lose 100 pounds overnight.
Sure.
But what was I saying? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I was kind of got a front row seat to someone completely changing their life. And I saw my mom get a better partner out of the deal. Like their relationship just blossomed. They were empty nesters for the first time ever. My sister graduated from high school and we, like the siblings and I were talking, we're like, we don't know if they know how to be alone together. They've always just had us and they're always chasing sporting events and stuff. And they're best friends. They have so much fun together. He got a promotion at work. Like he plays basketball and rides bikes with my nieces and nephews. And I got to see him be that grandparent that, you know, I always thought that he could be. And I remember thinking that like, if I helped one mom or one dad, it didn't just change one person's life. It was going to change everyone in their life, like their coworkers, their kids, their spouse. And that clicked with me. It felt like, you know, a girl from a town of 400 could make a difference. So I just went into it with that mentality. Like if only one person signs up and does these silly little workouts, like some girl or some little boy out there is going to get a better mom out of the deal. And that's worth it for me. So that was kind of how I started. And that's how we've been rolling for 5 years now.
It's incredible.
What a way to start the episode. My goodness.
Yeah, you're telling me.
So how old is your dad now?
He just turned 56.
56. Okay.
Yeah.
And is he still a firefighter?
Yep. He's a fire captain. He just hit like 30 years of service.
That's incredible. I mean, and so from now, how long has he had the weight off now?
About 5 years. So he was like,
okay, so
coming to that, like about the maintaining point when I started LexiJWellness.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what did he start doing to lose that weight? I mean, did you help him through that? I mean, I know you said you didn't really start LJW until about that time.
And I didn't have, like, I remember my mom has always been a speed walker. Like that's what she did. She never picked up a dumbbell until I started LexiJWellness, and she just did that to support me. But she started going on walks with him. The firehouse is it's an adult fraternity, really. Yeah. Like it's a bunch of dudes hanging out and they like to cook like a bunch of guys hanging out.
Sure.
So it was really cool to see them change their habits and like get on board with it and, adopt that behavior and to support him. So it wasn't just him making a change. It was, the environment around him, thankfully, that supported it. Because a lot of times people that are trying to make that change, they don't always have the most supportive cast in their life. So
Definitely.
thankfully he had people that supported him, and like I said, it's not a linear process, whatever. It doesn't happen overnight by any means. So being able to course correct when you do get off track and just get right back to it, get back to the basics that will serve you best. And he's been able to maintain it, fluctuating those 10 pounds or whatever.
Sure.
But he says he feels better now than he did when he was 30.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, that is awesome. And I have a feeling too, the other guys at the house, they probably started to realize too, like, hey, we are first responders. Like, people's lives depend on us. If we ourselves are out of shape physically, mentally, someone else loses their life.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
some other family loses a father, a mother, a child, whatever. Like, so I'm sure that was a part of the ripple effect as well. It wasn't just like, hey, he's losing weight, maybe I need to lose some weight too. It's like, other people depend on us to be in shape.
100%.
Yeah. What an incredible story. I mean, that's so cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to talk too about a lost part of that as well, where you were talking about how he was worried about becoming and looking like a failure to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, I think a lot of people miss the fact that fitness is not easy.
Oh,
no.
Mm-hmm.
Making that choice and making that turn is not some kind of cakewalk that you just snap into existence and then you're good. And then, oh, okay, now I'm fit already or anything like that. It's actually very difficult to do. And I think a lot of trainers don't really address that a lot of times either. They don't have stories like yours sometimes that they've heard before where they might avoid even talking about the fact that, no, this is going to take some work. Like this is going to take, especially if it's 100, 120 pounds, it's going to take a while to pull off that weight. And that's such an important key because that's the beauty of it, because it really does make the rest of your life easier, but it's also a very difficult thing to do at the same time, and I think that's amazing. I think it's incredible. Yeah.
So transitioning a little bit here after the emotional start here, obviously you are a huge part of First Phorm right now and have been for quite some time. So how did you discover First Phorm? How did the athlete relationship start? Just the relationship in general? Like, how did that all come about?
Yeah, I have a really cool story with First Phorm. I can't even remember really. It was 2018 when I got introduced to the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I first really started tracking macros and I saw how deficient I was in protein, which is another thing that is wildly common. So I had always like plugged my nose and chugged muscle milk or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just hated the taste of it. And someone had given me Formula One and they're like, no, this is actually good. And it was the first protein that I actually enjoyed, not just tolerated. So I was a fan of the brand. I started following them on Instagram, and I remember seeing people that worked within HQ, and it was, people that now I consider friends. And I think that a lot of times we look at them and they're like these mythical creatures.
Superstars
And they're,
to a degree.
absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
And
yeah.
they are so cool and special, but they are, moms and daughters and brothers and just very genuine individuals. But I remember seeing them and feeling like I would fit in there, and I would those were my kind of people because I was kind of a black sheep as far as my priorities as a 21 or 22-year-old. I was just big into health and wellness. I really enjoyed that. So I remember seeing them in the way that they carried themselves and their, I felt like our core values aligned. So I applied to be a Legionnaire in 2018 and I got declined. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try harder. And then I tried again and I got rejected again. And then I applied a third time. Then I got rejected a third time.
You're like, screw this. I'm going to GNC.
So
Well, I hope that's not the turn we made. Oh, man.
I'm going to second Phorm. Yeah,
second Phorm. That's how it felt. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
right.
But I remember feeling like I just had to be better. Like for whatever reason, I didn't get pissy with the rejections. I was like, okay, I just have to prove myself that I belong there, because I'm like, I really feel like I would fit in. And it was so funny because I remember Brett telling my husband saying, one day First Phorm's gonna wish that they would have said yes. And at that time I was like laughing, like First Phorm has no idea who I am. So I just kept doing what I was doing. I didn't have LexiJWellness at that time. Like I said, I was just a fan of the brand. I enjoyed fitness. I used their products. Started LexiJWellness in 2020 and then went a full year. So we were celebrating our first anniversary event in 2021, and I couldn't table the the supplements. I didn't know how to do that. So I'd asked a friend that was a Legionnaire, and Legionnaire is like the ambassador for First Phorm. If you don't know that, I was like, hey, will you just like do post workout and kind of set up a booth? And she asked someone from HQ if they would come help her. Perfect. So at that event, we had about 200 people celebrating 1 year of LexiJWellness, and we had rented out like a barn wedding venue to do the workout in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the person that worked at HQ, he was like, have you ever considered working with First Phorm? And I was
Little
like,
do you know,
and you're
buddy.
like, yeah, I have. Yeah.
harder to get in than you think. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, actually, I would love that. I've tried 3 times. So I became a Legionnaire shortly after that in 2021. And that whole process has given me such perspective and appreciation for where I am now. Because it was by no means easy. If I would, have ran off to another supplement company and just said, hey, First Phorm turned me down, I'm looking for a 10% off discount code anywhere. And I think a lot of people do that, and it dilutes your influence because it's not rooted in like, I genuinely thought that I would fit in there. I thought that, I believed in what they believed. I believed in helping real people get real results. And First Phorm, one of their core values is loyalty. And I think that, through that process and not deviating and just continuing to decide I'll support the brand, whether I'm affiliated or not, whether I have a link or not, I like First Phorm a lot. And now I have that to kind of like, bolster me in this position, because it's so much more than, being able to put a link on your Instagram story or something. This is something I've wanted to be a part of, in any capacity. So now that I am a bigger face of the brand, it feels that much more special because I have that journey of like, I really, really wanted to be here.
Yeah, that's so cool. And, a little thing that you said there, so many people go from brand to brand, and it feels like, I don't know, maybe like 2021, 2020, 2021, 22, somewhere in there, we were really following like the Young LAs and the Raw Gears. And, we were really in that kind of space, so
to speak, or at least
Jim Broy
that
and that type of thing. And so obviously we were following athletes from both of those places, and it's like 1 week this guy would be with Raw Gear, and then the next week he'd be with Young LA, and it's like, wait a second, like what are you doing? Like we looked at you here, you were with this guy and with this brand, and we loved you here. Now you're over here, and then like a few months later they'd be back, and it's like, pick one, dude. Like pick one, stand with one, be loyal, like you just said with First Phorm, and it dilutes their influence, just like you said. And it's just like, okay, I don't really want to, use your code anymore and support you, much less the brand now. So it definitely dilutes the influence, and it kind of shows you who's just out there to make a bag.
Yeah, for sure. Because it makes you question when they say like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted.
Yes.
And then 2 months later, there's another new thing that they've, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. And it just, it seems kind of I don't know, code chasing.
Yes.
Like
very finicky.
Yeah.
That's why you see guys like Derek Wida or Mike Cunahan and all them, or what's the PT boss's real name? Mike Trotter.
Yeah.
There we go. Like those guys have been with them for I don't know, like what, 2014, 2015, if not longer than that.
Some of the OG athletes.
And you never saw guys like that leave. You never did. That was what was different about First Phorm. Now again, we're blessed being literally 10 minutes away from HQ here.
Of course.
Which is great, but it's like you don't see that with other brands. Like that's the big comparison, is like that is why you guys get the cult branding a lot of times, because you actually do build culture, and it's like you keep these people and they want to be a part of it long term. It's not just, oh, this person was 3 months at First Phorm, then they went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they do go somewhere else, they don't come back. It's one of those things where when the culture is so strong, it kind of weeds the people that aren't meant to be there. It weeds them out, which is, it's nice. Like you don't see people hopping in and out, because, if you, it's not easy also to, uphold the standard that First Phorm does as well. They have very high standards for, their employees and the people that are affiliated with them. And they demand that you, uphold the core values. And I think that makes me respect them even more. If that's something that turns you off as an influencer and an athlete, then I think that, that decision is being made for you. You can be on a poster somewhere else.
Yeah, right. And what's cool too is, at least for me, and I think it is probably the same for you, the way we got introduced to First Phorm was through S2.
Yes.
And so that's something that also differentiates them from other brands, is they have a literal store that you can go into, whether whether First Phorm is the house brand or not at S2, which I think we all know it is, and that's totally okay. But that's how we got introduced to it. And it's like, man, these guys and girls in these stores are really cool. They care about my results and what I'm wanting to do, my goals.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting to know me. They're not just trying to sell me protein and things like that. But I walk in and they know who Jacob is, and they get excited. And we talk about life. We don't just talk about the gym or fitness or whatever, which like we can totally talk about that stuff and we will, but it's much deeper than that. And that connection is very real. Whereas these people you just see on Instagram, while it's cool to follow them, cool to watch what they do, cool to watch their YouTube videos and all this stuff, you don't know those people, you know? And both S2 and First Phorm also give you opportunities to meet these people. I mean, that's how we met you, you know, and that's how we met Will in ways. And we've met all these other people, whether they're athletes or not, but all these incredible people through both of those companies. And it's like, you don't get to do that with these other ones. You know, you don't get to build that emotional connection, the physical connection, and just really get excited in your heart about those types of things, you know, rather than just buying the newest t-shirt.
100%. And I have to brag on the founder of First Phorm, Andy Frisella. Before we go out for Summer Smash, the big event for Summer Smash on Saturday, we have like a lunch with the athletes and, you know, the special guests that are there. And before we head out, Andy like has a talk with us, and he said, these people, you know, they are spending their hard-earned money. They're taking their vacation days and they're leaving their families to come see you and to come celebrate with you. And that's not something that should be taken lightly. And he was like, let that soak in, make sure that you're making this experience about them. So it starts from the top and it just ripples down.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not many events that you get to meet and get to know the owner like himself, or guys like Michael Chandler, you know, guys you pay the pay-per-view to watch on, you know, for the UFC, or Dana White for that matter. Like, get to be, you know, 30 yards away from Dana White, hearing a personal conversation and stuff. It's like, there's not really any other companies or brands that do stuff like that, you know? And so it's very, very cool. It's very, very cool. And just that story, I mean, that's kind of how I assumed it went for you. And it's cool to be a part of it.
So why, and as progressed, you obviously went Legionnaire. When was the conversation? Did they come to you and say, okay, it's time to be a First Phorm athlete? Or was that like you had an ongoing conversation with them with that?
It's so funny. Were you at Summer Smash this was your first Summer Smash, right? Okay.
Yes, yeah. I was at 2023.
Was that the one that I was Athlete of the Year?
I believe
He's
so.
nodding.
Is that right, Mitchell? Okay, because Mitchell was with me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I thought I was a Legionnaire still. So I didn't know I was an athlete. And then I got called up on stage as Athlete of the Year.
That's
so
crazy.
What a shock of my life. Yeah.
Oh, there's a poster. Okay, I guess. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was, they had never done that before. And I remember someone internally at First Phorm, they were like, hey, we should meet up, you know, close to the stage. Cause I don't even what the excuse was. It was like after the Pledge of Allegiance or National Anthem, whatever, we should be up here. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm just following your lead. I'm here to do whatever you guys need to be. And Sal Frisella gets up there, and on my vision board forever, because I didn't know how you became an athlete, I pictured it as like I would get a call from an unknown number and it would be like, Lexi, Sal Frisella here. I don't know why I just always expected that intro. So I just had typed that and printed it off and put it on my vision board.
Sal Frisella here. That's funny.
I mean, like, but if you talk to Sal, I'm like, you can 100% imagine
yes.
that. And Sal's up there talking and he says, you know, we also have one more thing before we get started that we've never done before. This usually gets announced, you know, at the banquet or whatever. And he's talking about someone, and he didn't really say like it was going to be Athlete of the Year. And I'm like, just in the crowd, excited to hear who it is. And he said, you know, I go to airports or when I travel and people stop me and they say they're so grateful to be part of this person's community. And I started to kind of click, but that could be me. But I was like, it wouldn't make sense because I'm a Legionnaire.
Yeah.
And then surely enough, this gigantic banner like drops from the wall and he says my name. I think I blacked out. I don't remember. But I got to go up there. I got to talk. I hope it was good. And yeah, I was Athlete of the Year in 2023, which was incredible. So that was actually the moment I found out I was an athlete.
That's crazy.
Pretty special.
Yeah.
You know, they planned it that way too. You like they had to have been like, yeah, this will be awesome to announce this.
It was way cooler than the unknown number calling me that I had pictured. I thought that would be awesome.
The unknown
Yeah.
number.
But this was
That is so ominous too.
Yeah.
The idea of Sal just like ringing
Like
you
this-
up on an 818 number or
Yeah.
something
Right,
like that. Or
right.
whatever,
This
random.
number keeps calling me. Like
Yeah,
I
I'm
keep declining.
declining it.
It's like, gosh, stop bothering me.
yeah, these
Like, hey,
telemarketers.
we're trying to make you an athlete. Like, pick up the damn phone. You know.
leave a voicemail. It's like, hey, Lexi, it's Sal. Like, let's get to it. Come on, like, what are we doing?
Sal Frisella here, and you're, oh my gosh.
It's happening.
That's awesome. Wow, that's the last thing I expect you to say about that.
Yeah,
Truthfully, I
right.
totally thought it was like you'd sign a contract and then they walked you into a room or that type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
'Cause
Yeah.
we've heard, like Jeff Lavecchio, he's kind of told us
course.
how his process was.
Mhm.
Will has told us about his, and it certainly was nothing like that. I mean,
Right,
that-
yeah.
that's cool.
I
That's
think it
very,
is
very
for
cool.
sure, like on a case by case basis, because they don't have a very articulated protocol for how you become an athlete
Sure.
or what that happens. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was
Yeah.
wilder than anything I could have
I think
imagined.
that leaves a certain amount of suspense up to it too. Like because I feel like if there was a super laid out protocol, it would not ruin the moment, but it would take the actual
Like the excitement
the
away.
excitement away from it.
The
Yeah,
mystery.
yeah, the
of
mystery
it as well.
of it, 100%. So like that's very interesting because I almost expected the business protocol or whatever set up.
Yeah.
So that's very fascinating.
Well, and you got to think too, if there was a specific plan, you got to have at least 10,000 followers, you got to have at least 1,000 posts and whatever else. Well, then people are just going to try and get to 10,000 followers and this many posts and, whatever else, just so they can try to become an athlete. But it's like, I've seen that they have some with 4,000 followers. I see they have some with over 200,000. They have some over 1 million. So it just,
Mhm.
when the time is right, they present you with the opportunity. you
Yeah,
know, and-
I always, when that happened, a lot of people kind of flocked asking, how do I do that? How do I become that? And I always come back to the fact that it is not very unique to have abs on the internet. It's not very, like, it's a dime a dozen to, be a fit girl on the internet. You can
Mhm.
see it on your explore page a million times. But the specialist, the most special thing about me and about what I do is the people that I get to work with. It's that they have genuine buy-in. And similar to like you saying that you got to meet the people, I love meeting my clients. I know them by name. I know what they do for a living. I know their husband and their kids' names, and I'm genuinely invested in them. And it comes back to the community and just focusing on the person that's in front of you and realizing that there's a human on the other side of that screen. It's not just, another check of the box. It's not another Instagram follower or something. And yeah, that's the separator for sure. It's them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, transitioning again now to sort of the same topic, obviously not on the company of fitness topics, but what are your biggest general fitness pet peeves? Obviously being a voice of authority to a certain degree, of course, on social media about fitness and stuff like that. What would you say, myths you see, training systems, that type of stuff? Like, what do you think with that?
I have a lot of, I really, really do not like the gimmicky 5-day resets, we're going to lose this amount of pounds in this many days, just because I have so much empathy from seeing my dad struggle. Like, he lost 80 pounds before and he gained it right back. And he lost, and we all have those people in our lives that have lost that and gained the same 50 pounds over and over again, trying whatever program was selling the hottest, and marketing and all of those things are so flashy and they're incredibly tempting. I'm well equipped to manage my own fitness, but I see some of that stuff and I'm like, man, it would be nice to, be guaranteed to lose 10 pounds by Memorial Day or whatever
Right.
they're spouting. So just like the vulnerability of that, it drives me crazy because you're preying on people that genuinely want to make a change. They're unhappy with where they are. And it's so frustrating because you're just preying on a vulnerable population.
Yeah.
That irks me a lot.
Well, and it kind of goes back to, earlier you were talking, there's so many people that walk into the gym not knowing anything. They're worried about being embarrassed or whatever. Those are the people buying those things.
100%.
And they're spending $50, $100, $150 or whatever on those types of things. And the people selling that know that as well. There's like an evil aspect to that,
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk on those types of things all the time.
Yeah. There's even structures like that with gyms too. I mean, you definitely know
Yeah.
this, where it's like they'll structure it to where it's like, do our 30-day shred with us. And that's all they talk about. And then, the rest of the year, you don't really see them invest in their members at all. It's just the $30 to $40 a month or whatever they get from that member. And that's it. That's the blank check they get from them, and that's essentially outside of that. Oh, you did your 30-day shred, cool, you're good. It's like, okay, that person lost what, 2 pounds during that 30-day shred, maybe because you didn't actually check in with them, you didn't really care about them. But you're right, they might have signed another $200 onto that 30-day shred because it was told to lose them 15 to 20 pounds or whatever, and they were begging to lose that much weight. You know, that was a huge thing for them to be able to lose that much weight, as it is for anybody in that position. And you use that desire against them. That 100% comes off a little evil.
Yeah, it's
to a lot of
manipulative.
degrees. Very manipulative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, because you look into any of these myths and or training systems like that and whatnot, it's very surface level too in a lot of ways. You know, you don't actually get down to know your clients' names or whatnot in that scenario. It's just like, oh, here's a $30 program, or here's this, or whatever it is. And if that person came up to them, they would just be, oh, thanks, bro, for the support. Okay, cool. And then they're gone, and that's it. And so it perpetuates this image of the fitness industry because it makes people think, you know, trainers like us and here don't actually care about them because they've had that happen to them now. They've been used on this 30-day shred or whatever it is. And next thing you know, they never chase their fitness goals. Maybe they start when they're 70, but by then, who knows? You know, and that's just, it's scary. But myth-wise, what do you think? Because a lot of ones we've seen is, for example, like best ways to put on muscle, and they only talk about one way. Do you think there's just one way to put on muscle?
I'm trying to think of a unique myth that bothers me. Because I work with women, and you kind of have to, a lot of women, I think it's definitely trending in a good direction, but my mother's generation, they're scared to pick up weights. They're scared to be bulky. They think if you pick up dumbbells, you're going to wake up as Arnold Schwarzenegger the next morning.
Man, that'd be cool though.
I know.
That'd be awesome. Oh my gosh.
So mind you, I talk through the whole workout because I'm a yapper. So it's 28 minutes of me working out, and it's like a little podcast, and I'm just chatting like I am hanging out with my friends. And I'm always like, I see you ladies walking. You're walking down the sidewalk, and you've got a toddler on one hand and a tricycle that they didn't want to ride anymore. You can pick up the dumbbells, I promise. Like, you're going to be good.
Right.
And if it was that easy to be bulky, every guy I know would. So like, look around.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So just the fear of strength training. And again, it's the media and society and the movies that we grew up watching that kind of made it seem that way. So I definitely think that we're trending in the right direction, but that's still something that a lot of women specifically have to unlearn.
Yeah. I think too, and you'll be able to speak on this way more than what we will, because we don't really pay attention to the women's side of social media or fitness social media. What are some that go on that side of Instagram and TikTok, you know, growing your glutes this way or at this rate? You know, seems like there's always influencers being called out for editing their pictures certain ways and things like that. Like, give some thoughts on that type of stuff.
Because I like to meet my people so much, I would be horrified to meet them and for them to say that I didn't look anything like my photos. So yeah, the editing is so silly to me. And a lot of times these women are beautiful and fit to begin with, and they edit the smallest thing. And it's unnecessary and frustrating, and it's misleading. If you're selling a program and your body is the billboard for it, you're, you know, a walking example of the product you're selling, which you are. If you're in the fitness world, as superficial as it sounds, you're selling the program that you do and proving that it gives results. So Photoshop is a big one that makes me not trust you, makes me, you know, lose respect in you because of, you know, that is just a moral thing that if you're selling a product that you wholeheartedly believe, then you wouldn't have to alter it.
Yeah.
And like you said, with the fitness industry, it kind of compromises your trust again. It starts to form those cracks.
I'm curious, does First Phorm not necessarily check that type of stuff, but I would imagine that especially in the age of as editing continues to get better, I would imagine they're to a certain degree checking for the authenticity before they actually work with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah, are you familiar with Goob on Instagram?
I was going to bring him
That's
up.
Funny.
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Goob is a friend of mine. He is a great human. But he's kind of the vigilante sheriff of fitness, the fitness world.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. And if you guys are unfamiliar, John Dorsey, he's brilliant. He really is. He's so smart. His whole platform is basically calling out people that are misleading themselves and misleading their followers. So by editing their videos, by editing their clients' photos, editing their photos, just being inauthentic. But a few years ago, I think that he had caught someone in the Phorm world, someone that was affiliated with the brand. And that was when he started working with Phorm, actually, because I think that he approached Andy about it. Andy took care of that person. They were no longer with the brand. And I think that earned a lot of respect from John, because he had reached out to a bunch of other brands and they brushed it away or continued editing. And so he is a huge supporter of Phorm because of the same thing. Like, he just aligns with their core values. But yeah, that is when that happened. After that, we were just informed that if that happens for our content, if your content's altered, you're no longer going to be a part of the brand. And it's as simple as that.
That's
I
big
love
time.
That. I love that. It's interesting you say that about Goob, because I'm pretty sure that's one of his original videos, I'm pretty sure, is where I saw him actually calling out the editing aspect of it. And I had never, again, at that point in time, I'd probably been training, was it 2-3 years ago? So I was probably I've been training for like 4 years or so, clients at that point in time. And it's funny because I'd never thought about the idea of somebody even editing their content, because I was like, oh yeah, like it's pretty logical to just be authentic online. So I had never even considered the idea that somebody would be lying about something like that. So it's crazy, but people like him, absolutely, because I think a lot of people on that may be against him. I don't know if he gets haters at all. I would imagine he does, with how big of a following he does. But I would imagine the haters are like, just let him live, like do what they want. But in reality, what he's doing is a really good service, because it is important for people to see the truth on social media if they're actually to continue with fitness. Because if you're editing your pictures, it's like edited pictures, you're never going to be able to look like that. So if somebody tries to obtain those beauty standards, so to speak, their mental health is going to go down a rabbit hole real quick, because of the fact they're trying to compare themselves to somebody that photoshops their pictures. So a lot of people might say, oh, that's wrong, like he should just mind his own business. But in reality, that's important to have somebody like that doing that, which is fascinating. He's
definitely punching up. Like he's going after, brands that do this. He's gone through lawsuits because of this. And it was one of the most recent ones was a brand that he called out, and they had responded and they said, like, thank you so much. We're going to put this into our protocol. I don't know if it was editing or if it was misconduct, because he'll do that of like, you have, sex offenders working at your gym and you have a childcare there.
Oh my gosh.
You shouldn't do this. And whatever the case was in this one, they had reached out and they're like, thank you. We put this into our procedures. We appreciate it, whatever. And then they sued him after.
The person or
the brand had sued him. Yeah. So yeah, I think from a standpoint of, I wouldn't know how to begin to Photoshop to begin with. Like, I am not tech savvy whatsoever. So
we'd have to have Mitch do it
if
first if we wanted to do it.
If I did that, it would be painfully obvious. I would have like a right angle in my body somewhere. But it is, because if you were, if you were a contractor and you edited the house that you were posting photos of, and then you hired them and that house was faulty, that's misleading.
It's a great comparison.
Right.
That is a great comparison.
Well, and you mentioned too, like, there's people that'll edit client photos. Like, that was also like, until this exact moment, I'd never even thought that would be a thing, but like it makes sense. It's no different than editing your own.
Yeah. He called out a really, really well-known influencer, coach, whatever, for editing client photos. And that's dirtier than editing your own.
Definitely.
And especially because that client has trusted you. They took that initial photo being very vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And to approve and, give your approval to say, hey, you can post those online. I want to inspire someone else. And for them to say, well, that wasn't good enough, I'll make you look better. That's shitty.
Yeah, absolutely.
We actually had a client, funny enough, story about that, but we had a client who I basically asked him, I was like, would you be cool if we use progress pictures to actually help inspire somebody else?
Yeah.
And he actually was like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And we're like, okay, totally cool. It's one of those things, like, we never would have thought to be like, let's take a picture of this guy from, his Instagram and use it. And next thing you know, and then you start thinking about this now, where people are doing that type of stuff. And it's like, I never would have considered that. I'm just like, oh, it's like it's his choice. He can say no to that.
Oh, absolutely. That's totally fine. It's vulnerable.
Like, it's very, I mean,
because then we just show his in body after that.
You're right.
Like, that's like, he was like, yeah, I'm cool with you doing the in body. That's totally fine. That's so funny. One of our pups just took out one of the cameras over here. It's Mitchell's camera. That's hilarious. But I mean, again, like he was also cool with being like, oh yeah, you can show the muscle gain I've had with the InBody. That's totally fine. So it's like, we worked with him in that way where it's like, if he would have said no to that, we would have been like, okay,
Yeah.
totally fine.
And
Yeah,
we've
that's
had
your
texts.
prerogative.
Yeah, exactly. We've had texts come through like,
Mhm.
this is the lowest I've been on the scale in X amount of years. Like, hey, are you okay if we screenshot that and post it? Like, yeah, absolutely. Because, those things are also very important. You know this being a coach. Like, how important those testimonials are.
Yeah.
But we also all know how uncomfortable it is to take those before and even still the after pictures. You might gain a lot of confidence, but still, like, I still see the first one.
Yeah,
Like, I still see me as
It
that
still
one.
stings.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and if you were to push back when they said no, that fractures your relationship, and that's the most
Big time.
important thing, because I mean, you may get clients if you post that progress photo, but to have someone out there that gets to talk about what a great experience you have in the relationship that, I wasn't super comfortable with them posting their progress photos, but we still have this great relationship, and they're gonna, be that walking, talking billboard for you that, is more valuable than a side-by-side photo, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great.
So, other than being a woman yourself, why is women's health such a passion for you? What are kind of your keys to being a healthy woman as well?
I think that it comes back to leading by example. And I always use my dad as the example because that is the one that just like roots so deeply in me. But the women are typically the ones that are leading the household from like a health standpoint. Like they're typically the ones that are cooking the meals. They're the ones that are spending most of the time with the kids. So behavior is caught, not taught more often than not. I didn't mean to rhyme that deeply, but
Dropping bars here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But you're going to adopt a lot of the habits that your mother has, that the people that you spend the most time with. So I mentioned it earlier, but we always talk about putting your oxygen mask on first. And I think that women specifically, it's kind of like we wear it as a badge of honor, and especially moms, to be the last person that you take care of. To put yourself on the back burner of, I will exhaust all efforts to make sure everyone else stays afloat. And if that means that I'm sinking, that's okay. And that's not, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's essential, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're kind of doing everyone else a disservice. You're not operating at the capacity that you could. And I think it's so important for women to understand and to realize that role that they play, that they're an influencer in their lives, they're an influencer in their house and the people that they come into contact with. And I think that's a really important role that you have to understand, whether you have a blue check mark and 1 million followers, the people around you are impacted by what you do, and to take your actions seriously, because they're rubbing off on the people that you love.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And, in that letter you wrote to your dad, you were insinuating like, listen, I need you here in my life for these reasons. And if you don't start taking care of yourself, you won't be. And I need it. I don't want it, but I need it. Our mothers are the exact same way. It's exactly what you just said. Like, we all want our mothers here, but no matter how old we get, we still need our mothers. We still need our fathers, and these two are about to become a mother and father. And thankfully, they both understand the importance of the health aspect, and it's pretty cool to witness it. Like, as one of your best friends is not only about to become a father, because like that's awesome, but to see how much care and attention he's already put into it, how much she's putting into it, and how much they're rubbing off on each other in that sense, because they see and know the importance of everything you just said. And maybe you can add some insight to this, but I understand the aspect of wanting to take care of everyone else first. But why won't they just start taking care of themselves? Why is that?
I think that, like I said, I do think that it's kind of a badge of honor being like, I am of service to everyone else. It's like you're a martyr. And I also think that for whatever reason, it's hard to wrap your head around being reliable to yourself when you would drop everything to help out your wife or your sister or your mom or dad. But we compromise so easily when it comes to keeping an appointment with ourselves. Like you said, you would wake up first thing tomorrow and work out, but something happened, or the day ran late, you didn't sleep well, you'll skip. Yeah. But if you had a doctor's appointment for your kid, you wouldn't skip because you were tired.
Sure.
You wouldn't, cancel the parent teacher conference just because you had a headache or because you were stressed or because you were unmotivated, like you would show up because the people you love need it. And we just overarchingly as a society, we compromise with our own priorities or what we say are priorities with our own commitments.
Yeah.
So easily.
I funny enough, I saw that, especially growing up, Mitch and I, where there was probably a time of, especially when we were teenagers, I would say, where Mitch and I had 5 to 10 years or so where my mom was prioritizing us big time when it was coming, because especially sports were starting to ramp up. So nutrition was a big thing, that she would feed us really well, etc. And that was awesome. That was a great, but she was sacrificing her own health during that time, at that point in time. Now, especially with these 2 dogs down here, especially, it's very easy for her to get her own workouts in. And what's really funny too about it is that she also now is taking advice from me where it's like, I give her some bodyweight exercise to do and she'll knock them out, which is great, so it's almost like now, Mitch and I are out of the house, that type of stuff, to where it's shifted to where she's had more recognition of that, which is awesome. But you're right. Like, I think I even saw that in my own mother where it's, you could see her putting herself to the back burner in a lot of ways. And the problem is, like you said, if you don't put on that oxygen mask first, then you can't help other people. It's just not possible. And you actually, now granted, of course, it's not that serious as an airplane crash, but it also kind of is, because you have more capability whenever you are physically fit to do those things. And I love to see that she's been really intentional about that. Especially like we had a health scare probably, 10 years ago or so with her. And ever since then, that health scare has actually not gotten any worse. It's actually gotten better, which is amazing. And so that's huge for Mitch and I, because it gives us an example of like her really starting to still obviously care about us. Now that we're out of the house, it's less of a concern, but it's so cool to hear you say that, because moms especially, I feel like, fall into that. It's much, do dads go to work 100% and obviously serve in that way? Absolutely. But I think moms at the homestead level are the ones who easily put themselves to the back burner first. Easily are the ones who do that first. And I think it's so key to see that you're making that priority with them.
Yeah, there's a big, like, mom guilt is a very real thing. I don't have kids yet, but I can empathize with that, and I see it every day of, they're asking so much of you, and it's not malicious. Like, they just need you so much, like those little kids do. And I think it's so cool, especially for the listeners that have little kids right now, that they're not going to articulate that it's important that you take care of yourself, but to hear adults like you and I talking about how much we've benefited as adults by our parents taking care of themselves. Like, I was 24 or 25 when my dad really was healthy, and I was a better daughter. I got a better dad out of the deal. And I can only imagine if he would have done that when I was 3 and I got to play with him. Like, he kept up with me. He rode bikes with me. He was an active participant in my life. Not just, he was always there, but he was, he's on the sidelines. Yeah. So if you have little kids, they're not going to tell you right now. They don't know, but in hindsight, they'll be able to appreciate that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. Mine are getting to do it now with their grandkids, and it was either today. I think it was today. I think it was this morning. My dad told me he's had this app on his phone that he does workouts through. And he's always been like, I want to support you guys. Like, can I do your app? And it's like, you can, but this is working for you. So like, we don't have to change it. Don't feel like you have to support us. Like, I appreciate it and I love that you've supported us in many other ways. But if this is working for you, like, we don't have to deviate from that. I believe it was this morning. He told me it's 96 straight weeks that he has done at least 4 workouts a week. And like every morning there's like it's like a stretching routine type thing. He's done that every single day of the week, but it's like 94, 96 straight weeks. And it's like, that is fucking awesome. Yeah. Like, that is so cool, And I probably didn't say it in the moment, but it's like, I'm super proud of you. So Dad, I'm super proud of you for that. Being the boy in me, it's like, I shouldn't say that to my dad, but like, that's so stupid being 26 too. But like, how awesome is that? So when you see your parents making a change, have a reason to, and stay consistent with it, like, that's awesome, and honestly, we're trying to get my mom to be more that way. How everywhere she is all the time, but hopefully hearing this will kind of inspire her to do that, and it just is. It's so important. That's all this comes down to. It's so important to take care of you. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah, if you don't make time for it now, you'll be forced to make time for it retroactively.
Exactly.
And
Or it'll be too
probably
late.
Much worse time.
Or it'll be too late.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Because there does come a point too. That's another part of the conversation where there does come a point where it can be too late.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're in that point where your health is so bad that you're too far over the edge. At that point in time, that's where nobody wants.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, moving on to our last little section here. Switching gears from any of the fitness stuff we were talking about, let's talk relationships. How did you and Brett meet? What makes a great husband and wife? We'll get into those after the story of you and Brett, how you guys met.
Okay, so Brett and I both went to Mizzou, the University of Missouri. We are both from really small towns. So he's from Northwest Missouri, but he also graduated with like 20-something kids.
Mm-hmm.
But I only knew a couple people I only really knew a couple people going to Mizzou, and only one of them was from my high school. He was a couple years older than me. And I was still like, I was fighting the freshman 15. I made a pact with this boy that was like from a different town that also went to Mizzou. And we're like, we're going to run. We're going to, we're not going to gain the freshman 15. So the night that I met Brett, I had actually went on a run with one of my friends. And we would like run around. We had a loop. We would run around the baseball field. And I got back to my dorm. I showered, and the only boy that I knew from my school that was 2 years older than me, he was in a fraternity, and he was like, hey, we have a party tonight. You should come by. And I'm like, I just got out of the shower. Like, my hair's wet. I'll swing by, whatever. So I show up to this party like with wet hair. I was not looking to meet my husband. I had, mingled for a little bit, and I said I was going to head out. So my friend was walking me out, and he's like, you should meet our fraternity president. I'm like, okay. So this boy wearing a George Brett t-shirt walks over and introduces himself. His name's Brett. And we talked about sports. We had like the same favorite running back growing up for the Chiefs. That was like who made me fall in love with football. Shout out to Priest Holmes.
That's a name. Wow.
Yeah. So we talked sports and everything. From a small town, I was like the only girl at the party drinking Busch Light. So
Let's go.
Yeah.
AK the best beer.
That's right. That's right.
But we didn't like exchange numbers or anything. Went our separate ways, and he had asked a girl that was older. He was 2 years older than me. So I was a freshman. He was a junior. He had asked a girl that was in my sorority for my number, and I was not looking for a boyfriend at all. I remember telling my roommate that I was like, Brett Johnson is the type of guy you marry, but I don't want to have a boyfriend. Like, I just got to college. So he had asked me out a couple times, and I said no. But eventually, if you go to Mizzou, or you're like, I don't know if Greek life is this way everywhere, but Mizzou's is kind of crazy. SEC is kind of crazy. So there's a giant blood drive. You get more points if you have more people participate. And I was like, I will go out with you if you go to this blood drive and donate for my sorority. So he's like, yeah, okay, we'll get ice cream after. And he didn't tell me that he passes out every time he gives blood. So we went, he passed out, he's green, like got carted to the back. And I felt so bad, but I was like, okay, he really wanted to come.
I'm trying not to laugh.
this.
My goodness, but that's funny.
So we went.
That's sacrifice right there.
Yeah. So we went to Andy's after, just talked forever. And I was like, this is the guy that you marry, but it's not the guy I'm going to date. And it just so happened that at that time, the Royals were making their first run, the World Series, since 85, like in my lifetime. And his family had tickets, and he asked me to go. And I was like, yes, but it's not a date. I was like, I really want to go, but it's not a date.
So this would have been 2015 then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I went to the ALDS. He took me and my little sister to the ALCS.
Oh my
but these
gosh.
were not dates. And I remember
Of course not.
Just
Yeah.
there for the
Of course
baseball
I
game.
remember my family being like, this poor boy, you're like, he's taking your little, like Kerrigan is 14, taking her to the American League Championship, So anyway, eventually it became a date. And we started dating in 2015, and we got engaged the year before. I graduated in 3 years. So the year before my last year at Mizzou, he had graduated, and we got engaged, and I got married 2 weeks after I graduated college. I was 21. So we actually just celebrated 7 years.
That's awesome.
Wow.
A couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's amazing.
It
That's
goes
awesome.
so fast. Seriously, it's crazy. 7 years I've been married for a quarter of my life.
Dang.
I almost don't want it to go fast though. That's what I'm thinking.
No, you
right now.
don't.
I'm like, don't go fast. Don't go fast. No. Wow, that's incredible. That's so over 7 years now. what kind of lessons have you learned during that time? Both you guys.
We are such different people than when we got married, because in that era we were college kids getting married. Like, we loved to party. Like our reception was a college party. I have a video there somewhere where I'm like we had like these troughs with Busch Light. Of course, you've got a couple small town kids getting married. You're going to have a giant trough of Busch Light. I'm waiting in it in my wedding dress, like chugging beer and throwing beer to people.
Oh my gosh. Now you're doing that, but with Phorm energy.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah,
How the times change.
Yeah, some things change, never change. We were so different, but thankfully we've been able to grow at the same speed in a parallel fashion, which I don't think happens very often. A lot of times when people get married in general, but especially when you get married young and you're still growing up yourself, you're going to grow in different directions. But thankfully our priorities have aligned all the way around, and we've been able to grow very similarly, like with our lifestyle change, with our priorities, with our careers. We've been able to kind of keep pace with one another and keep each other in check. That's been the biggest thing, is you're not going to be married to the same person that you married that day forever, because they're going to evolve. You hope. You don't want that 21-year-old person to stay the same forever.
Of course.
But
it's amazing how many do, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but understanding that they're going to change, you're going to change, and doing it in a way that supports each other and, promotes that growth, rather than I see so often with women wanting to change their life and you get pushback from the husband, and it's frustrating, and I can't wrap my head around it, thankfully, but you don't understand behavior that you wouldn't do yourself. So, I think just the coolest realization is how much we've grown together. Like, we've grown up together the last 7 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you started it / capped off the dates with a World Series championship too. So that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
That definitely is solid.
By the way, I just pulled out that year.
I was about to comment ball knowledge, by the way, too.
Yeah, that was good recall.
I was going to say, I was literally about to comment that.
I know some numbers. That's all right.
Sometimes. So it's funny, Lexi, because obviously with her and I dating and then now being married and whatnot, a lot of my content over the last year and a half now or so, 2 years, whatever it's been, has been marriage related, and just seeing couples that, to me, at least from what I see, look real and seem like they are doing really well and all these cool posts and whatnot. One of the ones I wanted to talk about actually was you and Brett. You guys it was a post of, I don't know if he collabed on it or whatever, it doesn't matter, but you posted it, I think, and it was talking on how a lot of relationships, when it comes to social media, there's a new trend nowadays where, I think it was mid-June you posted this, I believe, but it was, the new trend is that to basically shit on your partner. To talk bad about them on social media.
That's my pet peeve. It's not fitness related, but that's
not even fitness related. Yeah,
Yes.
of course. So I want to actually hear, what do you think about that? And why don't you do that? Because Holly and I have had that conversation now, probably 10 plus times and whatnot, and how important, because we'll see couples doing that and we're like, can you imagine us doing that to each other? It's horrible.
Yeah, I think social media has so many good aspects to it, and the social aspect and the relationships that you get to form, the friendships that you get to form, but it also gives people this parasocial relationship with people that don't need to be weighing in on everything.
Yeah. Yes.
And for whatever reason, a lot of people use it as an outlet for everything. You can complain about being stuck in traffic, and you can complain about whatever, but it shouldn't be normal to have thousands of strangers weigh in on your relationship
Not
problems.
even close. Yep.
And it's also one of those things where it's become kind of a quote unquote funny joking topic of, ball and chain and being a death sentence to be married, and how, your life is ending. I think I cannot understand that joke. I don't think it's funny. I don't understand it, and I don't know what it produces from it, because I can't imagine seeing my husband posting something negatively about me, or posting what a drag it is to be married to me, and then going home and having something good come from that. There's no benefit to your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or having someone else send you that post or send you a text you see what Brett posted today or whatever, and it's just no, I didn't see it, and then that's how you find out exactly what good could possibly come from that,
No, I mean, there's zero good that
Right,
from it,
right,
for that matter.
right.
Yeah, actually. That's because you're right. The first time I ever heard the non-social media version of it was from some dude talking about how, basically talking about how marriage gets worse or
Yeah.
that she controls me and all this other stuff. And that was essentially the gist of what he was talking about to me. And I was kind of looking at him and like, oh, okay. And just going on. But in my head, I'm like, I think your marriage just might be bad. And because of the fact that you're not putting any effort into it, it sounds like, or at least or at least maybe you married the wrong woman too. Maybe you made the wrong choice in that way. But I also don't want to hear about that. Like, even if you did marry the wrong woman, that's not something that's something you handle with her
Yeah.
at that point in time. And you definitely don't take it to thousands of people on social media.
Right.
That's the now exaggerated version of that same thing, the old ball and chain, because you hear that. I think that became a thing probably, I would guess, around like the 60s and 70s generation that was born. And it was funny to say for them. And in reality, if you think about it, like, divorce rates have gone way up. Relationships between men and women just are at an all-time low of productivity and also just positivity in the relationships these days. So I don't think adding to that type of stuff helps at all.
No. And seeing more of that is like, it's going to highlight every little disagreement you have in your relationship, because it's normal to have disagreements in a relationship. It is not normal to seek advice from strangers that have no insight into that relationship.
Right.
So if you have a problem, you need to address it with that person. You can address it in your home, and then it's a fine line between not showing and like forecasting this highlight reel, because it's absolutely not that way. But I would never go on and bitch about my husband and think that would be productive or change the behavior.
Right.
Like, I think similarly to like coaching or leadership, it's, praise publicly and criticize privately. Like, if you have an issue, you can talk about it behind doors and talk it to that person. But there's nothing that's going to come from it if I am bitching about my husband online, and aside from like fracturing that relationship further, if that were the issue.
We had a situation a few months back now. Timeline doesn't necessarily matter, but someone who we were close to and we looked up to quite a bit, and he was a very good connection for us. And then his wife was posting some things on her Instagram story of some stuff that was going on in their house. Some things from his past were kind of resurfacing. Old habits were resurfacing, that type of stuff. And they were making it public, or she was making it public. And it wasn't necessarily in the way that we're describing now, where it's like, can you believe what he's doing or whatever? It was more, they were kind of just showing why they might be quieter on social media for a time period, or why they might be moving out of this particular place or whatever. But even still, we were kind of sending these back and forth. Like, you see what they're posting? Like, this is not, like, I didn't need to know about it. And especially didn't need to know about it through an Instagram story.
Yeah.
I didn't want to know about it. That was
And there's
thing.
yeah, I think the poster is feeling like they're letting off steam without realizing that the other people are not going to forget that. And it's like when you tell your best friend like the shitty things your ex-boyfriend did, and then you get back with them, and they're not going to forget. They remember everything that you told them. So if the behavior has changed, then, you may believe that, but that person still is going to hold a grudge to the guy that treated their best friend like shit.
Yeah.
That was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got about relationships. It might have been Jeff actually, Becky. It may have been. I can't remember if we had this conversation with him or somebody else, but
probably wasn't him. He's never given us good advice on anything.
He's going to love that one. That's funny. But it's funny because whoever it was that I got this piece of advice from was exactly that. It was like, never the person you're dating or married to, never go and tell your friends the bad things. Because like, that's the thing. Most of the time, if people are ranting to their friends about their relationship, it's the bad things. And the problem is then the friend thinks it's a horrible relationship, because whether or not it is or not, because sometimes it genuinely is, but that's not the perception you should be portraying of your relationship at all. Now, there's a difference. If you want to talk about something that's going on, that's usually something where it can be like, dude, Holly and I have been great for so long. Like how can I go about addressing this and whatnot? Have you seen this in your relationships? That type of thing. And it's not in a way where it's like, she's crazy.
Right.
It's where it's in a way where it's like it's productive. Like I want to continue working on this so we can get better as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like who knows if you should be even talking about that, and maybe you should address it with your spouse first in that scenario. So
Yeah, looking for a solution rather than looking for clickbait.
Mhm.
Or something that's gonna just, I don't know, maybe. I mean, misery loves company, so you're probably posting that to the other people that are miserable in their relationships, and you're going to get engagement because someone else is going to feel seen that they also have, you know, a shitty partner at home. But like I said, that's only going to strengthen a parasocial relationship with someone that you don't know or someone that you are not married to and live with and building a life with. I don't see anything productive happening actually in your relationship when you do that. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. This is probably a silly question to ask, but how important is Brett to you, and how important are you to him?
Oh, he's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that especially as we get older and, you know, as life gets busier and it always just continues to, my priorities have never been clear about him being the most important thing, and that none of this, like any accolades or business success, would be fulfilling if I didn't get to celebrate it with him. If I didn't know that he was also right there with me, because he's the only person that knows every rejection, every misstep, every frustration, but he's also the first person that I get to celebrate everything with. And it wouldn't be meaningful or rewarding if I didn't get to do it with him.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. For however long I followed both of you guys, I've said to him multiple times, it's like, I just love seeing how much they support each other. And I've always meant that. I've said that to you, I don't know how many times, but you're at all of his stuff. He's obviously at all your stuff, but whether it's the High Rocks, Times Square, I mean, and those are just recent examples, but everything, it's so cool to watch. And those are just, you know, the few things that you see through social media, but you can also tell it's very, very genuine and very real. And it's not just for the Instagram story or the post or whatever, but it's just been very, very cool to me to see that from the outside. And now hearing you talk about those things, like, it's just, yeah, it's real. It's genuine, you know, and who doesn't want that? You know what I mean? And so it's very cool. Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. It is the biggest decision you're ever going to make is who you spend your life with. And I feel really good about mine.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And you guys did it younger too, which is unusual in our generation in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually, in a big way, like that's a resounding, encouragement for other people to get married as well and find that right person and decide to make that choice, you know, even if it is right when you graduate college.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, scary, right? You know, but in reality, I mean, I told Holly this. I wish I would have met her at 19 or 20. I've told her that 100 times at this point in time. You know what I mean? Because then the last 5 years without her or whatever it was before that, I'm like, well, life would have been a lot better with you here.
Yeah.
And now we get to enjoy it after this point. Thank goodness that I'm 26 finding her now. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I love being married. I can't relate at all to the ball and chain or the misery. It's the best thing. I get to come home to my best friend every day. Well, I work from home. He gets to come home to his best friend every day.
So speaking on actually the High Rocks and the Times Square stuff, I'm very curious to hear about both of those things. Let's start with High Rocks, because obviously that's the big craze right now in the fitness world. How did you decide you wanted to do that? Because have you done a solo one?
Yeah, solo was my first one.
Okay. So what led up to you like, hey, I want to do that? And then what led to you guys doing the duos?
I actually signed up for High Rocks before I knew what it was.
Nice.
I didn't know the like structure of the workout or anything. But obviously,
like, I'm going to do it. Sure.
Yeah, it was the craze. And we had friends doing it. We watched, like, we're good friends with Will Grumpke, and he's killing it. So Brett said that he wanted to do Houston, and I wasn't gonna let him do them by himself.
Of course.
Like anytime that
Absolutely
one
not.
of us is gonna do 75 hard, the answer is like, well, I'm not gonna let you do it by yourself. It's we're gonna do this together. So I did my first one. He did singles first. I did singles first. And it was March 15th, which actually fell on day 75 of 75 hard, which was the perfect conclusion to that. Like the hardest workout of all 75 days. Thank goodness I didn't have to wake up the next day and do two because I was hurting. So yeah, we both did singles first. I ran like a 108, which my goal was 115. So I also had no concept. Again, I hadn't touched a sled. I work out from home. I do dumbbell workouts. So I was kind of like just throwing something at the map and saying like that would be cool if I got 115. I had no idea where to gauge that. And then someone else had women's doubles tickets for Washington that was 2 weeks after that one. And they couldn't do it anymore. So they were like, well, you can just have our tickets if you want. So one of my employees and I did that. And I think we ran a 106. So we were getting a little bit faster. And then I can't remember. Oh, no, Atlanta was next. So I've done 4. The next one was mixed doubles with Brett. And I don't remember if we got those like secondhand or whatever. I feel like everyone except for the first one, we somehow came across these tickets after they had been sold out. It wasn't something planned far in advance. But we did Atlanta. And this was the first time, like for mixed doubles, it's men and women if you're unfamiliar. So the woman does the men's weight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely harder for the woman.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that again, we don't have sleds at home. So not only I'm not familiar with pushing and pulling that sled, but I'm also doing it 100 pounds heavier than I did in the races previously. We also didn't really have a strategy. We just kind of split everything 50-50 for that one.
Gotcha.
And we ran a 1 hour, 1 minute, 0 seconds. And online, so top 3 in each age group get to podium. Podium typically qualifies you for worlds.
Gotcha.
And online it said we were in 3rd with our time. So we're like, holy crap, that's crazy. Like the first time we ever did it.
Yeah.
So we stuck around for podium and they're like, all right, in 3rd place for mixed doubles, this age group with a time of 1 hour, 1 minute and 0 seconds. And we're getting ready to walk up. Like first Phorm had cameras there and they called someone else's name. And we're like looking at each other.
Oh no.
There had to have been a mistake. There's no way, like 0 seconds. So after they finished that, Brett went and talked to the woman and they had to go back to the 10,000ths of a second.
Oh my.
And we lost by 4 10,000ths of a second, which is that's like inches.
Oh my gosh.
That's brutal.
Because you're constantly, it's not like everyone is running at one time.
Sure.
It is a you versus you race. You're just running against the clock.
There's, what do they call those? Heats, different heats.
So new heats every 10 minutes. Yeah. So that one stung really bad.
Gosh.
And then they opened up a Friday Night Lights for New York. And we're like, well, that would be cool. It was our anniversary weekend. We could go to New York. Typically, we celebrate our anniversary at Summer Smash. Like it always aligns there.
Gotcha.
So we were actually free. And we wanted to redeem ourselves. So we really wanted to get sub 60. And we had better strategy this time because Brett, naturally, like the man is going to be stronger. So he could pull more weight on the sled. I'm very fast at burpees and lunges. I'm really good at wall balls. So I can pull more weight there and we strategize better. So we did that. New York actually was outside on a pier and it had rained. So the turf was really wet. So the sleds moved really easily, but it was really slick on the burpees. So we slipped a little bit. We ran a 1 hour and 57 seconds or 56 seconds. We didn't get our hour, but we had some missteps and just like didn't run our best race, but that was our last one. So hopefully we're going to qualify for Worlds next year. We've got our eyes on Dallas in November.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's, I've kind of got my eyes on Dallas in November with one of the S2 managers. But it seems like just an insane event though. I mean, obviously it's high energy. There's a lot going on, but it also seems like the community, like at the actual events, it seems unreal. The community, the energy, the way it's run seems very efficient.
It is.
You just said there's heats every 10 minutes. So there's a lot of people everywhere at all times. But isn't it like a relatively small area that everything happens in?
So they're always, except for the pier, they're always like in convention centers. And typically there's a track that you run 1,000 meters and it's usually about 2 laps.
Okay.
So 1,000 meters is like 0.62 miles. And almost always, with the exception of Worlds and the pier, or that we've been to, at least all of the stations are within that. Plus a merch store, plus the registration, plus all the spectators. So it's packed in there.
Yeah.
So even as a spectator, you're booking it from one station to the next to watch. You're like shoveling through crowds and stuff. It's a crazy environment, but it is so fun.
Yeah.
And I think it is just everyone that's there has the appreciation that everyone is suffering.
Yeah,
like it is not easy
right.
for anybody.
Right.
Because if you're elite at it, you're pushing yourself to the extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're in better shape, it's not supposed to be easy. Like you're trying to go faster, you're extending yourself further. So I think it's like just the appreciation, at least for me, watching, no matter if you're, running very slow or you're blazing,
Mm-hmm.
the appreciation that you're putting yourself into a position to be uncomfortable for an hour plus.
Right. It's the exact same thing with a marathon. Like, oh, well, he runs marathons. It's still 26 miles.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't make it any easier.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were about to say
Oh, no,
something.
you're good.
That
You're
was
good.
awkward, but that's okay.
Yeah, I really like. I like high rocks. I think the barrier to entry is very low when it comes to like skill development because LexiJWellness takes priority over everything
Sure.
for training. Like I still have to record 6 workouts a week, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't have time to train. I can't do muscle ups. I can't do snatch. So like me hopping into CrossFit doesn't really feel realistic with where my priorities are
Sure.
professionally. But high rocks, the structure is laid. You know exactly what it is. You know how heavy it is. It's not anything that you have to dedicate a ton of skill development to. Like burpees, lunges, row, ski, they're not easy, but they are simple. And
sure.
whether you're, a beginner or more advanced, like you can hop in and with limited equipment, like you can mimic those things also, even if you don't have access. Like I didn't touch a sled till I raced.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that the barrier to entry is low. I also like my little squirrel brain loves that you get to switch stations. Like you're not running a marathon and sitting with your thoughts for however many hours.
Yeah.
You're going to spend a few minutes doing one thing and then you're going to do something else and then you're going to do something else. And you're just kind of going from one to the next. It keeps you engaged,
Yeah.
or me at least.
Yeah. What's the hardest station?
When you're doing singles, it is burpees for sure. Burpee broad jumps.
Okay. Yeah.
100%.
Makes sense.
Oddly enough, for me at least, when we do doubles, farmer's carry is the hardest because
Interesting.
it's the fastest and Brett runs the farmer carry because we're going heavy. So Brett's running. So if you're, splitting time at the row or whatever, the person resting, because in doubles you have to run together, but you get to split the stations. The person that is working and then the second person, they're resting. They get to stand behind the rower.
Yeah.
But with farmer's carry, you have to stay within an arm's length. So you
Oh.
get back from running and he picks up the kettlebells and he runs. So we're still running. And then it's my turn to pick up the kettlebell. So you're exhausting yourself. And then you just go right back into running. So there's no rest there.
Jeez.
That one surprised me how that was the worst.
Yeah. How heavy are the kettlebells for that?
For mixed doubles, they're like 56 pounds each.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So not light.
That's
No,
I was
yeah.
gonna
At
say,
all.
Yeah.
And then you can't use your arms really to run,
No,
obviously.
and you're going 200 meters.
Yeah, that's insane. So with the doubles, can you split each station however you want? It just has to get done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would anticipate, because High Rocks is just growing at such a pace that they're not forecasting all the like issues to come. And with anything like that, there's going to be things that you just learn and pivot.
For sure.
I would expect, and I kind of hope that this happens, but I would hope that for the mixed doubles, I don't know how they would regulate it, but that the woman has to do a certain percentage of the work. Like pridefully, I like that I get to contribute more in certain areas, or that I get to
Sure.
hold my weight, in certain stations.
Yeah.
He's obviously gonna like pull the load strategically. Like you want to
Of
go
course.
faster, you're gonna put the stronger person doing that station. But you also see people like a really strong, like that weight isn't heavy to you guys. It's not heavy to him, but it's heavier for me. So if you have a woman that can run and then she gets to rest for a few minutes, because if the man pulls all of the weight in the stations and she gets rest, she's going to be fresh and have fresh legs. She
Yeah.
can keep up on the run.
Right.
So you could get, a woman that's just really, really great at cardio. She's a runner and hop in. She doesn't have to do any of the station work. And I've seen them excel, like get sub 60s without really touching any of the stations. So I feel like that may just be my ego being like, I want it to be more of a partnership and there to
Yeah.
be some sort of contribution requirement.
Absolutely.
Right now there's not. So you can split it however. So I think, we split everything to a certain degree. But there are some times where, the man will do all the farmer's carry or whatever.
Well, and I think that's completely justified as well. But it was also kind of cool to hear how you guys went into you've done 2 mixed doubles, correct? Yeah. The second one with a plan, with a strategy, like, hey, I'm better at this. I'll keep our time lower on these 3 or these 2 stations or whatever. You're going to be better on these ones. So like you're going to handle the majority here. Like that's that kind of adds fun to it as
Yeah.
well, you know, and whether you're doing it with your spouse or you're doing it with two guys or whatever, like having a plan, it adds fun to it because like we're all athletes here. Like we played sports. I'm assuming you played sports growing up.
Yeah.
What'd you play?
Small town, you play everything.
Okay. Fair
Yep.
enough. Fair
Yep.
enough.
Mhm.
What was your favorite? What were you best at?
I was best at volleyball. My favorite was basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Team sports though.
Yeah.
So that's good. And that was kind of getting to my point here where you obviously have to have strategy in your team sports. You have your positions, whatever the sport is, you have your positions with your roles. Who's better at this? Who's better at this? To win the game, to win the match. It's the exact same idea here. So if you are someone coming from team sports growing up, you're going to incorporate that and you're naturally going to do better, you know? And again, it just adds fun to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
After we got beat out, we were on our flight home watching the videos that our friends had taken, and we were like picking it apart like game film. We're like, we could have gone faster right
Yeah.
there. Our transition
Right.
could have been better right there. Yeah, because we're both very competitive. So it's been really fun to be able to do that with him also, because although we're both relatively fit, like you're still in a very vulnerable spot because you're pushing yourself so hard. And to be able to do that with the person that you love more than anything, it's so cool to, you know, have a common goal, to be able to do that together, to cross the finish line and feel accomplished with them. Like
Yeah.
it was awesome for me to watch him do singles and, you know, to run up to him after I finished singles, but to be able to cross together and be like, we did that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
that is very cool. So Times Square.
Yes.
First of all, was that
Fever
on
dream.
the, right? Was that the same trip as the High Rocks?
Yes.
Was that all the same? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're coming off the high of the High Rocks, like very cool thing again to do together, but like you're in Times Square. Like you're on a board in Times Square. Like just walk us through that entire thing. You obviously knew it was coming or it was happening. Because you guys were out there when it first showed up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It all came together. We had talked about this, like a lot of times these things that are very big productions oftentimes don't have as much lead up time as one would think. They don't have as much like preparation, but it's kind of nice because if I were to know that I was going to be on Times Square for months, I would just be itching and I couldn't tell anyone. Like it was kind of a secret. So I don't even remember. It had been like a month or two before it happened. And I got a text from Andy Frisella and he was like, if I put you on a billboard in Times Square, would you go take a picture with it? And it's like a random text. I'm like,
Oh,
It's a hell of a text to get.
I
Yeah.
would hate to go do that, Andy.
exactly. Maybe if it fits in my schedule. And I'm like, yeah, of course, I would love that. And
You send back, who's this?
You're right. And I don't even know if he responded to that. And no, he was like, no, but would you actually go to New York and take a picture like in front of it? And I'm like, yeah, that would be incredible. Like that is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing really came from it. So I think when I had talked to you guys at the S2 barbecue or expo, I was talking to Andy and I was like, do you remember that text? Like, was that just like, you know, was that real? Did I dream that? Did that like, is anything going to come of
Did I
that?
dream that?
And he was like, yeah, we'll make it happen. And he's so casual about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, are you going to be in New York at any time? Like when would work best? And I was like, I'm actually going to be in New York in 2 weeks. Like I have High Rocks planned. So if that happened, that would be awesome. If it happened, I would love for my parents to see it. Cause you know, I'm from in the middle of a cornfield. This is crazy. And really nothing came of it. And I'm like, okay, well, that would have been insane anyway.
Mhm.
So the week before High Rocks, I was actually at my my husband's grandma's visitation, and I get another text from Andy, and he says, "What photo would you want on this billboard?" So I'm hiding in the bathroom of this visitation, like talking to the photographer, talking to the graphic designer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I have to get this thing put together. If this is actually
Right.
happening, we're gonna make it happen. And yeah, so I sent several photos of like, you know, if this is the kind of the vision we're going for, these would be awesome. If you just want to look cool, like this is the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dave Mullis, my Uber here, dropped me off in a
That's hilarious.
in a Phorm energy truck. He put it together, and he is the engineer behind so many great things that First Phorm does, and
Mhm.
does not get the credit that he deserves. But I think that he really likes being like the silent
Behind the
puppeteer.
scenes,
yeah,
yeah,
of
he's
course. Yeah.
so good at everything he does brand wise and just like that vision. But he's the one that brought it to life, and eventually it was a thing, like solidified. So I got to take my parents. I booked them a trip. And they got to go out to see it. If you're a TLC kid like me and watched Carlo's Bakery, did you guys ever watch that?
Nope.
They make like crazy extravagant cakes that are like taller than you. It was on TLC.
Dang.
I used to watch that as a kid. And the billboard is right above Carlos Bake Shop, which is even cooler. I'm like, I went into it. They had told us what time it would go on because it goes up the same minute every hour. And then you get like 2 bonus minutes that you have no clue when it is.
Oh.
So I'm just like eyes peeled at this billboard. And I went before we even went to Times Square because I didn't know what size it was. I had told myself, like, if it's the size of a regular TV in Times Square, that is still incredible. That is still the coolest thing ever. And this thing is massive. It's huge. It's in the center of Times Square. It is like the attraction, which was just wild. So we went knowing that it was going to be on like the 25th minute of the hour when it first went up. And so we were hanging out and we got one of the bonus minutes first. So we're all like talking to each other and all of a sudden Brett's like, oh my gosh. Oh, like we turn around and there it is. And my mom's like hooping and hollering. My dad's teary eyed. It was so cool that they got to experience it with me. Cause it's like, that wasn't on my vision board because that didn't feel like real life.
Sure.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Is it still going?
It's not up anymore.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a time frame on it, but
Gotcha. I can't even
but
imagine.
that was so cool that, again, Andy I can't brag on him enough because he has like such a hard exterior and seems very intimidating, has such a good heart and like wanted me to be able to experience this, wanted my parents to be able to be there, and did so much to be able to facilitate that when I would already be in New York. That was really cool.
That is so awesome.
Makes it pretty easy to support First Phorm.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you hear that right there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if everything else that we've talked about as far as
Exactly.
First Phorm didn't get you to that point, like there you go. Was that the first time First Phorm had been in Times Square too? Like up on a board like that?
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane. Like that's so cool. That is so cool. Even for like First Phorm in general to be in Times Square. Like that's also super cool.
Dave was there with me. Like it was cool for him. That was his photo.
Absolutely.
Like his original photo that he took. Yeah, it was really, really special. Like for everyone involved, it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And
So
again,
cool.
like it said First Phorm and it said LexiJWellness. Like it has my logo on there, which is, I didn't request that. I would have been fine if I was like a nameless person in the background of a photo.
Just the girl on the poster or on the board.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like that was just like his heart. Like he wanted me to have recognition in that too. And that's not something that you would find everywhere because he didn't have to do that at all. Like he didn't have to do the billboard to begin with, but to put LexiJWellness up there was over the top.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I'm just thinking about the cost of like leaving it up there.
Well, yeah, I was
my
thinking
gosh.
that too. It's like I
It
can't
makes me
imagine.
I can't ask.
No, don't ask that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I actually know a guy. It didn't cost us anything.
It's like $5,000.
What? Yeah.
It's like, huh,
$5,000.
what? Mhm.
You know, it's not at all in the same way, but I get some pride when not only when I'm at a Cardinals game and I see the huge board in center field, you know, just beyond center field, but when the Cardinals, which is rare now because they suck, but you know, when they're on ESPN or the Fox Saturday night games, so the nationally broadcasted games, you know, when they're showing shots of the field, like boom, there's First Phorm right there to the whole country and, you know, around the world as well. And it's like, that's our brand right there.
Yeah.
Like that's St. Louis and the whole world is getting to see that right now. Like that's pretty cool. I'm getting goosebumps right now. It's just like getting to be even a tiny part involved with the company like what we are. It's still so cool. It's still so much pride. So then to magnify that to basically the city of the world and having your face on it, like I can't even imagine how cool that was, you know, and to have all your loved ones there with you. Like it's just such a cool experience. And it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's
like
awesome.
I said earlier, it gives perspective and so much appreciation for the journey. If you would ask if I could, you know, snap my fingers and get told yes the first time, I don't think that I would have the appreciation that I do now.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely want to be here so much, and it's something that I cherish so much. Like I don't take it lightly that they trust me to be a face of this brand.
Yeah. So neither one of you are from Kansas City. How did that happen?
We lived in St. Joe, which is about 30 minutes north of Kansas City. So Brett actually still lives he works in his hometown.
Gotcha.
He works in crop insurance when he's not
Crop
CFO-ing.
insurance.
CFO of LexiJWellness. Yeah. So rural area, he insures like row crop, soybeans,
Interesting.
corn.
Very necessary.
Yeah.
Actually, I heard about that in Iowa a lot when I was there. and
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so he works with his dad doing that. So we lived in St. Joe, which is like 30 minutes north of Kansas City, for the first like 5.5 years of being married.
Mm-hmm.
We bought land outside of Kansas City. We're just north of the city. And we built a house, and that whole process took like 2 years. So we've been in the Kansas City area since last February.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah.
So pretty recent then.
Yeah.
100%.
But I guess grew up Royals and Chiefs fans and just Kansas City fans in general.
Yeah, we got married in center field not married. We got engaged in center field of Kauffman Stadium.
That's cool.
I have a nephew who's 15 whose name is Kaufman.
Very
so he
cool.
was named when they were trash.
Wow.
Yeah, we're diehard Kansas City fans.
Yeah.
Just don't tell her I'm a Broncos fan.
Oh,
Mm.
guys,
Yeah,
I know.
come on.
We got the chance to go to a Chiefs game this past season with S2.
Mhm.
This dude wore a Broncos jersey.
I did.
Come
Yeah,
on now.
I did.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, what am I going to do? Wear a Chiefs jersey?
What
Well,
jersey was
yeah.
it?
It was Chris Harris Jr.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I got to go to Cardinals opening day with First Phorm.
Nice.
They got a suite. They got everyone custom Cardinals jerseys.
Very cool.
And I was like, guys, I can't post pictures in this. That was so kind of you. I'm like, does anyone else know anyone with the last name Johnson? It's super common that Chiefs or that's a Cardinals fan. I didn't post any photos, and I felt bad because I'm like, they invested in this. They bought me this jersey. They bought me the ticket. And then I got tagged in something, and my dad took a screenshot and sent it to me, and he's like, what the hell's this?
Oh, I bet he was furious.
Dad was pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
No more Cardinals games. Oh.
we don't mess around. Yep. It's a pretty fun time to be a Chiefs fan, though.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
My family and I, we're some of the few St. Louis people that fully admit that we hopped on the bandwagon when the Rams left. Like, there's
Hey.
no doubt. But like, this guy can tell you, like, I'm in it. I'm fully in it.
I love
Definitely.
it.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about
Checo's
that.
my guy.
Yeah.
My guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Checo's a dog. I'll give
Yes,
you that
he is.
100%. Yeah.
He's fun.
Yeah. You got anything else?
I'm good on
I
my
mean,
end.
this was an awesome
Yeah,
conversation.
It was an awesome conversation.
While we're talking about the Chiefs, I have a really cool event that I want to plug.
Yes,
Because
that's what we're
Yep.
getting to.
I
Plug
do-
yourself.
Sorry.
Yes.
I do have a really, really cool event. The 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb. I mentioned earlier, my dad's a firefighter. My grandpa was a firefighter. My brother is a firefighter. And I had done a 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb before, and I felt like, oh, that's a really cool cross section of my world and their worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And how wild would it be to do it at Arrowhead Stadium? So last year I shot my shot, and I'm notorious for like the worst thing they're going to say is no.
Yeah.
And I got the rental. It was like 20 some days before 9/11. Like it was under a month. And we did a 9/11 memorial stair climb. All of the proceeds went to a local charity. We raised $22,000. It's so cool. And the charity supports, they pledge within 48 hours if anybody within these, there's 12 different counties that are supported. If a first responder dies in the line of duty, they're at their family's house with a check for $40,000.
Wow.
So it's a really, really special organization. I hate to think of the money actually being put to use, but God forbid it happens, then they need to have the funds to be able to, deliver on that promise. So we raised $22,000 last year. My goal this year is $60,000. It is on September 11th. It's a Thursday. The Chiefs don't have a home game. I had to wait for the NFL schedule for that. Doors will open at 5 p.m. and we'll climb the equivalent of 110 stories in the lower bowl. It's also the cheapest way that you can get into Arrowhead anymore.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Free is also a somewhat cheap option, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, so that's actually my birthday. 9/11 is my birthday.
Oh.
So obviously,
Sorry.
baby is coming. Yeah. We can breeze by that, but hoping maybe to make the trip out for that.
That would be
'cause That'd be
awesome.
awesome. Yeah, but obviously for him, baby will be being born potentially a couple days before that. But very, very cool. And yes, anyone that can, whether you're around Kansas City, you're up here in St. Louis, or anywhere else, if you can, get to that event. And then where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at LexiJWellness. LexiJWellness.com is my website, and Facebook, Lexi Johnson. I can't remember if it posts to Lexi Johnson or Lexi Wellness, but you can find me either.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Well, Lexi, we appreciate you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We were thrilled to finally get to meet you and build a connection with you, and we look forward to continuing to do that. But
Absolutely.
thank you for making the time and making the trip up and whatnot for us.
Thank you for having me. I hope they enjoy it.
All right, guys, that is episode 164. As always, please share the show. It is free. It costs you literally nothing except a few seconds of your life. So please share the show, share it to your Instagram stories, take a picture of your screen if you are a YouTube viewer. It helps us tremendously. Text it around to your friends and family. And guys, until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings.